Alrighty, here we are in the InfoWars. Author J.K. Rowling torches arrogant Harry Potter star Emma Watson after actress opens up on rift over trans ideology. Alright, well, I'll pop in the video with the Watson woman there and take it from there.
Ever cancel her out or cancel that out for anything. It has to remain true. It is true. And this is where this holding of these, I just don't know what else to do other than hold these two seemingly incompatible things together at the same time and just hope maybe they will one day resolve or co-join themselves, and maybe accept that they never will.
So my understanding, Emma Watson is pro-trans. Rowling is anti-trans. Appearing on the podcast Purpose last week, Watson, who played Granger in Harry Potter movie series, discussed how she had come to realize it was okay for Rowling to have her own opinion. Oh wow, we can have our own opinions? Cool. That's nice of her. Too bad more people like her didn't come out publicly and said that it's okay for other people to have their own opinion. Because maybe if people on the left had said, you know what, everybody's different, everybody has their own opinion, and they're entitled to it, maybe Charlie Kirk would still be with us. So Rowling believes that biological men are taking over women's spaces. Yeah, they are actually. Sports, bathrooms, etc. And yeah, you can be opposed to someone else's opinion. Sure. And that's why you have this thing called a civil discussion, where you just sit down and you talk to one another about your varying views. You know, peacefully, without yelling and screaming at each other or resorting to violence. Rowling dressed down Watson in a lengthy X post. Yeah, it's pretty lengthy, alright. Saying she'd previously held her tongue when asked to comment about several Harry Potter actors who threw her under the bus at a time when a vicious mob was sending her threats over her anti-trans views. Yeah, so basically, her anti-trans views are trans men aren't real women, if I'm not mistaken. Well, she's right. Trans women are mentally ill. The whole trans thing, it's a mental illness. As you think about it, there's nothing physically wrong with them. Well, up until they start mutilating themselves by, like cutting out their breasts or cutting off their, shall we say, Johnson. In other words, it's all in their head. Now, brain chemistry is the first thing that comes to mind. What can disrupt a person's brain chemistry? Chemistry? Chemicals. What kind of chemicals? Oh, well, the various chemicals that are in our food. In her response, Rowling, 60, described how Watson, 35, had sent her an apologetic handwritten note, despite having her phone number. After she had attacked Rowling on stage during a speech at the whatever awards. I'm assuming that was verbal. But anyway, is a handwritten apology more sincere than a phone call? Well, a handwritten apology, you just write stuff down on a piece of paper and then you just give it to the person. So I would say a phone call is more sincere. Oh, and this is J.K. Rowling's lengthy post. So, yeah, it's pretty lengthy, alright. She talks about how Emma Watson and co-stars are free to endorse transgenderism. It's their right, protected under law. Emma had just publicly poured more petrol on the flames, yet thought a one-line expression of concern from her would reassure me of her fundamental sympathy and kindness, Rowling wrote. The author went on to point out how Watson, who became a multi-millionaire child actress for starring in films based on her books was arrogant after living a privileged, sheltered life. Yeah, and couldn't identify with arguments defending young girls forced to change in dressing rooms with trans people. Yeah, exactly. Millionaires, they live in their own little mansions, have their own little areas, and things of that nature. They don't know what it's like to be a pleb. Rowling continued, has she had to strip off in a newly mixed sex changing room at a cancel-run swimming pool? Is she ever likely to need a state-run rape crisis center that refuses to guarantee an all-female service? To find herself sharing a prison cell with a male graper who identifies into the woman's prison? Furthermore, Rowling declared she herself wasn't a millionaire at 14 and actually lived in poverty while writing the book that made Emma famous. So yeah, if I was Emma, thankfully I'm not, I wouldn't be trashing a person who made me a multimillionaire. Moreover, apparently they had a somewhat of a close relationship on account of Rowling knowing them since they were like, what, 10? So, Emma could have just said, hey, everybody's entitled to their own opinions. This is a free society. Well, for now. But I may not agree with Rowling's opinions. They're her opinions. I mean, that's the safe way of going about it. Rowling even says it herself. Emma is rightfully free to disagree with me and indeed to discuss her feelings about me in public. Yeah, free and open debate. But I have the same right, and have finally decided to exercise it. The author wrote, she would not have made her sentiments known had Watson not professed her love for her in the podcast, writing, the greatest irony here is that had Emma not decided in her most recent interview to declare that she loves and treasures me, a change of tact I suspect she's adopted because she's noticed full-throated condemnation of me is no longer quite as fashionable as it was. I might never have been this honest. Adults can't expect to cozy up to an activist movement that regularly calls for a friend's yeeting, then assert their right to the former friend's love. I wouldn't call them an activist group, I'd call them a terror group, because if they're calling for the yeeting of people, they are a terror group. And Rowling is right that the whole trans movement isn't quite as fashionable anymore. Yeah, it went from trans to the Russia-Ukraine war. Now it's Gaza-Israel conflict. So the trans fad is put off to the side. That's probably why trans people are a little upset, because they're not on the forefront anymore. So now they're forcefully putting themselves in the front page news. Watson and Harry Potter star Daniel Radcliffe, 36, in years past both publicly denounced Rowling, with the latter in 2020 asserting transgender women are women. So yeah, you denounce a friend, and now you want that friendship back? Yeah, that doesn't work like that. Celebs who cozied up to a movement intent on eroding women's hard-won rights and who used their platforms to cheer on transitioning of minors can save their apologies for traumatized detransitioners and vulnerable women reliant on single-X spaces. Women wanted the right to vote, they were given the right to vote. Women wanted to enter the workforce, they entered the workforce. And then what happened? Birth rate tanked. As for the right to vote, women tend to vote on their emotions. And this is why women's rights are being eroded. Women, such as Emma Watson, they're all emotional for the trans people, wanting to, appease them by saying, yes, you are women, even though you're biological men. Now, I disagree with that because transgenderism is a mental illness. So what she's doing is she's appeasing the mental illness. If you really want to help trans people, you get them mental help. Like a psychiatrist or something. Rowling, on the other hand, she's an older feminist because, she's in her 60s, right? So she remembers the whole women fighting for the right to vote and the right to work. And that's why there's a disconnect between feminists of Rowling's age and feminists of Emma Watson's age. So finishing up this video, I remember a time when J.K. Rowling was the darling of the left. And just because she spoke out against the trans people, just that little bit, they call her a fascisti and a Yahtzee. Kinda like, I don't know, a certain debater. It's kinda sad when you think about how the left says they're the side of tolerance. Doesn't seem really tolerant to me. But anyway, I've rambled for a little bit longer than I wanted. Anywho, that's it for my thoughts on this matter. Take care out there in Clown World.